Welcome to Aging Revolution, the Java podcast. I am your host, Ty Mines. Today, we are joined by special guests Tish Blackwell, Java's Chief External Affairs Officer, and Nelson County Central District Supervisor Ernie Reed. Ernie, what can you tell me about yourself?
Oh, well, you already gave the important part. Yes, I'm on the Board of Supervisors in Nelson County. My district is the Central District, and that includes Wintergreen and Stony Creek, and then stretches kind of thinly all the way across the county to the county line past the Faubourg Fire Station. And but of course, the supervisors are actually for the entire county. So while I probably have a really strong finger on the pulse of what goes on in my district, it's also a challenge to have to deal with, a county that is very rural, and most of the county is very different from my district. So, it keeps me busy. It's challenging, and it's a lot of fun.
That's so fantastic. As someone who is also from originally a rural county, I'm actually from Rockbridge, so I say Nelson's the cousin to Rockbridge. I'm always interested in talking about the nuances of being in a rural area versus a more urban or suburban area, because there are same challenges and then there are some different challenges that can be there as well. Um, you brought up a great point. You're talking about how your district is the central district. I actually just spent a couple of days out in Wintergreen on a nice little vacation a couple of weeks ago, which was thrilling. But you're right, that area, that central district is different from other parts of the county. Can you talk a little bit about what those differences are and maybe some of the challenges there?
Well, there's quite a few. One thing is that the county is really large and spread out. And that means that for a lot of our citizens, those that are, beneath the poverty level, which we have a pretty high percentage, which are, and for people that are older, and we have, I think, arguably the oldest demographics of anyone in the Commonwealth in terms of how old most of the folks are. Over half the county is 51 or over. So what that means is that getting around is a real challenge, and it's complicated by the fact that although we have services in the north part of the county, limited services, thanks to Jaunt, and they come down to the Cecilia Ep Center and provide some transportation for our people. The entire south part of the county is a lot more comfortable and has, grown up, being more connected to the south part of the county. And there are no transportation services through Madison Heights and through Amherst and down to Lynchburg. So those people really feel, and rightfully so, that they're, living kind of, remotely farther away from services that the rest of the county gets. So that's one of the very big challenges that we have. Some of the other things that are connected with that have to do with our schools. Most of the tax revenue that we collect goes directly to schools, but as our older population increases, we're finding that our younger population is somewhere between steady and slightly decreasing. So trying to build a community where a majority of the community now is served by Java, it poses some real challenges from the tax base, and also from the housing standpoint. Not a lot of housing available for young couples, single family. Rentals are almost non-existent. My district boasts having about 8 out of every 10 short-term rentals in the county are in my district. That, of course, is brings revenue into the county, but it takes away housing from people that would be long-term citizens, special single-family folks, and first time home buyers and things like that. So that's kind of an overview of the biggest challenges that I can think of.
Yeah, absolutely. And like thinking about that, you know, half of the county is 51 or over. And I think of that demographic, 30%, a little more, is over 60.
Mhm.
And so you do start getting into challenges, I'm sure, where as folks are beginning to age and they're on fixed incomes and they still need the same things that a young couple would need who's starting out: affordable housing, access to food, not having, to drive X amount of miles to go to a grocery store, things of that nature. And so having a transportation problem can also lend to those issues as well. It's always amazing to me how we don't always tie that our younger demographic has the same needs at times as our older demographic in terms of our infrastructure, and particularly I would say in a rural area like Nelson. It's a beautiful area though, that's the
Right.
thing.
The other thing which I find a lot and is essentially problematic is that the people in the county that are the most in need are also the most invisible. And so when most of your tax base is made up of, of older folks or people that are of a higher demographic that have, more access to services and transportation than others, um, because the county is so large, there's not a lot of interaction between the people that are needier and those who are able to provide for themselves a little better. And uh, that doesn't bode well for having a seamless community where everyone understands everyone's needs and are able to help provide for each other.
Your website has some great information on there. Where you had 22% of the residents are enrolled in Medicaid right now. Um, and then I was wondering too about the disabled population in Nelson County that also needs, transportation, access to services, to medical visits, all those types of things as well.
Do know that in terms of the schools, our special ed percentage is really high. And we do have a lot of students that are, um, either, have language barriers or have mental health issues or have physical disabilities that, our schools are mandated and they do a really good job, providing the services for them. Um, but again, that is one of the dilemmas in a rural county. And in a rural county, you also have situations where people consider some of the obstacles a little overwhelming, and they do homeschooling instead. And I actually come from a private education background. I used to run a private school in Charlottesville, so I totally understand how all that works. Um, but in Nelson's, some of the very best opportunities that young people have, are provided by the schools. For some of the students, it's the very best that they have, and they're kind of like the first responders, and then the Department of Social Services kind of comes in second, and job is up there too. So and old people need young people. Getting young people and old people together is one of the few things I know that can really bring the different demographics, together and to play together, which is a great thing when you're able to do it.
Talking about socialization and stuff, we learn so much from other people, especially people from other generations, because for young people, older generations are our light of what the past was like. How was life? How did life look before we got here? And I think that younger people, and I mean, obviously I am of the younger generation, so maybe I'm speaking out of turn here, but I feel like we are kind of the eyes of like where we are going.
Mhm.
So having those connections of people working together, I feel like it kind of creates a full picture of where we are, where we've been, and how we can move forward. And I feel like if you're just stuck with one or the other, you're never really going to have that full, whole, like holistic connection.
Yeah, you're right. And the other thing is that, one thing that you never consider as you get older is that someday you're going to be older. And it's never really a consideration unless, well, no, nobody thinks about it until all of a sudden you're, like one slip on the ice away from, having to need services you never had before, and you're limited in what you can do. So, getting young people and old people together is a real important thing because it does give insights and extends, that circle of empathy, beyond yourself, which works for both older and younger folks.
You've done work with DSS. I believe you served on their board, if I'm not mistaken. Um, I believe you were a founding member of Here to Stay Wintergreen, which was an action to help older adults to make their community more livable friendly, if you will, as they aged in place to stay there. And of course, JABA, we are extremely happy that you have been on our board of directors since 2018. And so with all of these different pieces of work, you are certainly an advocate for all people. And I will focus on the older adults right now, since that's kind of what we're talking about. But working with all of these different pieces, talking about intergenerational connections and how we start having these conversations. Um, how did you get interested in this advocacy? When did you see that importance and you knew you wanted to be a part of that to bring those conversations and change about?
Well, that's really interesting because, and I came, face to face with this when I got involved with the Department of Social Services. The work that they do, and to some extent the work that JABA does, is things that I just felt I didn't have the heart to be able to do myself. I come from a background of being kind of an advocate um, for national forests, public lands, the natural world, and of course the people who feel it's important to defend and promote those things. And so while that makes me very comfortable being around, master naturalists or master gardeners, and end up at Wintergreen and the Wintergreen Nature Foundation, while it makes those things very comfortable, I realized very early with uh, with DSS and Java that I just don't really have the heart to be able to be one of the people that has to drop everything to serve and provide what needs to be provided at the moment that it does. Department of Social Services is chronically understaffed. As a result, a lot of things that fall by the wayside because they have to drop things to actually serve the families. And DSS serves both young and old, everybody. They have to care for and provide for in times of crisis, and trying to get the families back together and to keep them in place. And then JABA gave me an opportunity to be involved in doing that without having to be the person that does the hard work, but to support those people and to make sure that those people have the tools that they need to be successful at what they're doing. So, and the JABA board has always been a real diverse. I was going to say eclectic, but not really. They're diverse. They represent a wide community of people in a lot of different places with a lot of different skill sets, to be able to support the work of JABA and direct it to some extent. And of course, I'm always willing to advocate for Nelson County and services there, and Jabba's work at the Cecile Epps Center and in the southern part of the county has also been really fabulous. And while there's always more work that needs to be done, we're so wonderfully grateful for the services that Jabba does provide.
Thank you. We are certainly grateful for the support that we receive from Nelson and all of our localities to make sure that we can continue to provide these supports. In your time on the board and board of supervisors and being a part of the JABA board and getting, a lay of the land of challenges that are happening in Nelson County, is there one that really stands out for you that you've been heavily engaged with or you're working towards more engagement to address?
That's, outside of what I've already mentioned, um, uh, being on the board of supervisors, and this is a little, you know, projecting a positive future for the community and for the other members of the board of supervisors is really important because all the other supervisors, besides myself, they they were born, and in many cases their parents were born in the county. That's the home that they've always known, and they are running full-time businesses with all the people that they come in contact with in the county. Their families are really rich and deep and scattered throughout the county. And they have lots of different things that pull on them to do what they have to, when they're trying to make decisions about what's right and the direction for the county. Although I've been, living in the county since 1980, still, I do not have that rich connection throughout the county. My connection through the county is really kind of more through the natural world, and I've always felt that the county kind of advocates for itself in that way. But in terms of what it means for me, it allows me to be more of a full-time supervisor and commit more time to things like JABA and Department of Social Services and the Planning and Zoning Department. And I'm also on the board of our service authority, which provides sewer and water infrastructure in some more remote places of the county, including Wintergreen. It allows me to kind of like dig into these in a deeper kind of way without feeling like there's, connections with other people or family that can kind of pull you away from having an objective view of what's going on. And therefore, I think that, and being a teacher, I know how important it is to be a positive role model. So on the board of supervisors, we're a team. We all have skills that are, unique to each of us and expertise and things like that. That's what I think I bring to it.
That's great. I do have another question for you too. Because a lot of what we've talked about today, they can apply to anywhere in America, any rural locality, any urban or suburban area. And I think, as time goes on, we all see unique challenges always to our own communities. And you're an advocate for so many things. Is there a piece of advice that you would give to anyone who is advocating for a particular cause, or any words of wisdom you would give about why it's important to advocate on behalf of the aging population?
Well, I've been on the board of supervisors now for 8 years, and while I'm still trying to figure out how all the pieces still fit together, I have a much better idea. And I had always been, even, before I was on the board, I was always an advocate. So I was always trying to figure out, sometimes with a legal or a public, organizing scenario, what are the very best ways to accomplish something? And there will always be individuals there that have been doing that work, and seeking them out, finding out from them the kind of, like you're asking me for advice now, I'm kind of walking around it, but still there's a lot that you can do. When someone contacts me and says, I have an issue with something or a problem here, um, it's or just to complain, which happens as well. I always say, well, let's get together and let's meet and let's talk about it. I mean, it's one thing to know you have a complaint, but it's something else to kind of drill down and figure out what you can do about it. And if you're looking for that way, it has a tendency of kind of opening up for you. And it's not magic, and it's not a special pattern that you always follow. It's kind of just keeping your eyes open, and when there's a sign and an opportunity, it's there because it wants to be taken advantage of. Because the world, I think, really wants um, the older community to be cared for and to be loved, and it also wants people that extend that love. So that's the way the world works, and people that um, are busy, kind of clouding up the environment with lots of other things, tends to obfuscate those things. So sometimes you just have to kind of, find your own way. But one of the things that I've always found is that if you find something that no one else seems to be doing that looks like it needs to be done, then you've got your path kind of laid out in front of you. And that's always a really good place to put your energy. In the meantime, while you're still trying to figure out how to get to where you want to go.
There you go. I love that. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about today?
Not really. I mean, we've already, obviously right now, the most important thing to me is that I get to continue to do this work for a while longer. Um, but the support for the work that Java does is so wonderful. It does things that, again, that nobody else can or does do. And so I'm just so grateful for, the opportunity to do this and to be able to hang out with people like you, and just always try to make it all a little bit better than it was the day before.
It's really all any of us can do. And it takes a village, literally. It takes people to be compassionate and to care and to have full empathy and realize it's about so much more than just who we are as individuals. So thank you for all the work that you're doing to advocate for older adults, to advocate for the environment, to advocate for the needs of your own county, because it all starts on that local level.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's again, people that want to make a difference will always find that the higher up you go to try to make a difference, the more time you spend beating your head against the wall. Not that it's not an important thing to be done, and we all have flat foreheads from having done that, but to really make a difference, it's going to be those local things that really have the most direct impact, for sure. So anyway, thank you again for everything that you all do, and hopefully I'll be able to, continue to be doing it with you for a while longer.
I hope so. Yes.
Yeah.
That's what we would like to see as well. If people want to know more about you, Ernie, and um, I know there's a lot going on in November coming up. So, but if people would like to know more about you and the work that you are doing in Nelson County, is there a place where they can find you?
Um, yes, and in fact, it's going to be very easy to find me for the next couple of months because I'm running for reelection. So as a result, I am doing all the things that you would expect someone to do who wants to get reelected and serve for 4 more years.
I did see the signs.
Right. So I'm doing a series of town hall meetings. One's at Rockfish Valley Community Center and the other's at the Faber Fire Station. The dates for those are available on my website. And there's two different ways to get to my website. One is Ernie Reed 4 number Nelson.com. And also there's Blue Nelson .com/Ernie Reed. That's the Democratic webpage, and I have a link to that. And you can find out more information about me than you would ever want to know by going to either of those. But it also it has the dates of all of those public meetings that I'm doing, and I'm trying to be out and about. There's going to be a couple of campaign forums that are going on. Chamber of Commerce has one. The Nelson County Home Builders have another one. All those dates are available. You'll be able to find them on my website or on social media. Or everybody wants to make sure that there are good turnouts. So finding that information is not going to be a very big challenge.
Thank you so much for being here today, Ernie. We really, really appreciate it. To everyone listening at home, you can find all of Ernie's information in the description of wherever you're listening to this or watching this video. Again, Ernie, just thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
See you guys next time.